This story has absolutely everything. The previous charges were dropped without prejudice because of prosecutorial misconduct. Law enforcement found a secret recording device that pointed a finger to another suspect. There's a mixture of DNA found in a glove box that law enforcement says doesn't involve any of those individuals. And when law enforcement finally found the body, they say it's been moved at least 2 other times. All that being said, everything's alleged. Welcome to the point. Let's get to it.
The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of in the first degree. Law enforcement, the Chaffee County community, and Colorado as a whole has never stopped fighting for justice for Suzanne.
Just make sure you turn over all the evidence this time. Look, we're all for justice on this channel, but justice has to be done the right way. One of the biggest aggravating things when following this story and seeing what was going on is the fact that the prosecution didn't do their job the first time. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. If you're not going to do this stuff right, don't do it at all. Let somebody else do it. At this point, we could have already known who did what to who in this particular story. But because those prosecutors screwed up, we have this delay, we have this time gap, and now we're dealing with it all over again.
We're giving a voice to the victims this morning, talking about what's ahead for defendant Barry Morphew as he makes his first appearance in court, accused of the murder of his wife, Suzanne. Suzanne Morphew vanished back in 2020. The 49-year-old mother of 2 was reported missing on Mother's Day. Her husband was the last known person to see her alive. Scripps News Denver brings us the latest.
I'm Denver 7's Claire Lavazorio outside the Alamosa County Justice Center, where Barry Morphew had his initial court appearance here in Colorado on Tuesday. He was escorted into the courthouse, handcuffed in an orange and white jumpsuit, smiling as soon as he saw one of his daughters there to support him.
And a lot of people are making a huge deal about him smiling, saying Barry's not taking this seriously, he doesn't care. And I'm just going to go on and say I strongly disagree. He was probably smiling because he saw one of his daughters. And just so y'all both know, at least previously when these charges were originally dropped and there was no body found, both of his daughters supported him. They advocated for his release and they advocated for his defense. It's my understanding, based off reports, when he smiled, at least one of his daughters was there. We don't know where the other one was. And while many channels may speculate on whether his other daughter no longer supports him or not, we're not going to do that here because we just don't know.
He's charged with for a second time. Barry Morphew is back in Colorado, appearing before a judge in his new case. His face lit up as soon as he saw one of his daughters sitting in the courtroom. This 30-minute appearance in front of Judge Amanda Hopkins was mostly procedural. Hopkins outlining standards for media coverage and courtroom etiquette.
Our entire community needs to be able to use this courthouse undeterred. They don't deserve to have to be subjected to this just because there is interest in Mr. Morphew's case.
Though Denver 7 did learn about a possible conflict of interest between Morphew and the public defender's office.
Probably a lot of
anticipate, expect, and ask the court to appoint the office of the alternate defense counsel.
Prosecutors say they've provided almost all discovery materials to the defense, except for one witness transcript.
We're prepared to set trial at any time, but of course we've just given them multiple terabytes of discovery.
On June 20th, Morphew was taken into custody in Maricopa County, Arizona. This comes nearly 2 years after Denver 7 was the only station alongside investigators as they discovered his missing wife's remains just outside of the town of Moffett. New details from a grand jury indictment say Barry was the last known person to see her alive. And during Suzanne Morphew's autopsy, an animal tranquilizer known as BAM was found in her bones. The indictment claims that Barry was a deer farmer and the only private citizen living in that entire area of the state that had access to BAM at the time of his wife's disappearance.
And it's almost so obvious. I mean, who else could it be, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm just asking the questions here. If an individual is going to do something like this to their wife or soon-to-be ex-wife, they have to know they're going to be a hot suspect. They have to know they're going to be one of the primary people law enforcement is looking for. Now, yes, Barry's not a mastermind. In the heat of the moment, this could have been what he came up with, and he didn't really think it through. But it's almost so obvious it's stupid. We know Suzanne was having an affair, and I'm not here to drag her name through the mud. Is there potential she was having an affair with somebody else? To the best of my knowledge, no it isn't. It does look like, as the state has laid this stuff out, that only Barry is the one who could have committed this crime. But why would you use a chemical only linked to you? Why would you use something you know is heavily regulated? And because we're fair on this channel, and this is just an open discussion channel, there's another fair point to bring up. Law enforcement is saying that when they found her body, they know her body was moved at least 2 previous times. And according to locals, everybody knew who Barry was. He had one of the most well-known faces in that community, and it would have been incredibly risky and stupid to remove those remains from the original crime scene, then take those remains and transport that to another area, dispose of them, then do it again. Everybody knew who this guy was. Everybody was recognizing that face. Everybody believed he was a suspect or he could be involved. His movements were watched and analyzed. And that's just another piece of the story that doesn't quite make sense. Now, of course, yes, if he's a dummy, if he's an idiot, he's going to do stupid stuff like this. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm saying the state needs to prove it. And I'm also saying there may be more to this story than what's being reported in the mainstream media.
Morphew is set to be back in court on September 2nd at 1:30. His attorneys say at that time he'll be ready to discuss his bond. I'm in Alamosa. Claire Lavazorio, Denver 7.
September 2nd will be right around the corner. So Barry Morphew, what was up with that smile when he was in the courtroom? A lot of people talking about that. A lot of people in true crime community also want to know if these charges are going to stick this second time around. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael J. Brown. Okay, let's start with the defendant's very optimistic appearance in the courtroom. Michael, what'd you think of that?
He just saw a daughter.
Julie, I don't know if it's really the optimistic part of it. I'm sure he takes this seriously. If you look when he came out initially, this is a charge. And what you really see is he obviously noted his 1 or 2 of his daughters are in the courtroom. And that was really refreshing. And it was a friendly face and it's a family member. So I think that was the reaction. I think the media, quite frankly, is making way too much of it. I don't think it's anything more than he identified and saw his children, and that's refreshing and comforting to him. I think that's the extent of it.
You think it was just a glance at one of his daughters? We do know that one of his daughters was there, the other was not. So you think, well, because that's the clip. Obviously, everybody's talking about that clip. Why is he smiling? But great explanation if it was just an acknowledgement of his child.
Yeah, I do. I don't know anything about him, or I know what I read about the case, but that happens all the time when you see the defendant will come out, they'll acknowledge a family member, they'll be so happy and excited to see them. It's independent of the charges, and what happens is they blow it up and they make more of it than it is. He's not taking it seriously, he thinks this is a joke, but I don't think that's the case.
I appreciate it, Michael. And I know you can also appreciate what we're looking at here. So we have a parent holding hands with his 2 beautiful daughters. Now he's behind bars. We'll see what happens at his next hearing. Their mothers looks here, and this video was taken quite some time ago, they were supporting him. Don't know if that's still going to be the case. Perhaps one is. We know one was present. I don't want to speculate on why the other daughter wasn't there.
No, but y'all will.
For what her thoughts may be. But how difficult is that in cases you've had where you have one parent accused of the other parent?
And before he answers that question, I'm going to say this. If you're going through a divorce and you're having some sort of situation with your spouse, don't do anything like this. I'm not saying Barry did it, but other people have. There is no possible outcome worse than the situation you're going to face when you're found guilty of a crime you committed because you lost your temper or because you lost control. Violence like this is unnecessary. And if you're scared or worried, go to a friend, call somebody, get some help. Don't sit there and announce what you're going to do. Suzanne's gone. We don't know who did what. The state believes Barry did this. There's a lot of evidence pointing to Barry. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to lie. But there's other victims in this situation, mainly his 2 daughters. They've already lost their mother and they may very well lose their father. It's just senseless. It shouldn't happen. Make better decisions.
Yeah, these domestic cases are horrible, and it happens all the time. And now you have the children will lose both parents. One could potentially spend the rest of their lives in jail. It's horrible on the kids. It's horrible on the family. Everybody loses. And it's interesting in this case, as you pointed out, Julie, that one of the daughters is supporting the father. And despite the new indictment and some of the new evidence that came forward, I don't know if that's going to continue throughout the process as evidence may get revealed. But for the time being, that's the case.
Great points, Michael. I want to play for you a clip that went viral at the time. I still talked about. I'm sure these prosecutors will use it in the trial. This is when Barry's out helping investigators look for his wife, and he talks about how maybe a mountain lion got to her.
Was it a crash? I mean, the bike looked, the way it was laying, it kind of looked like it, but there's not really that much damage to the bike. That's the thing.
Lion?
Yeah, it was just like lion.
No lion? Mountain lion?
I didn't see anything that would indicate.
Okay, Michael, thoughts on that and how you defend that?
He's suggesting something. How sincere it comes across, I don't know. You see these all the time when you have a husband who a wife, and then he's active and he leads the search parties and gets volunteers in the community to look for the wife, and then we find out he's the one responsible for the crime, and then he gets convicted, and the joke's on who. But I don't know. I don't have enough here to really make that comment. And it may be legit. There's a presumption of innocence, so we have to afford him that presumption. And maybe he's just simply suggesting an alternative theory in terms of why she's not there and what happened to her. Mountain lion? I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
That clip just, I don't know, it's the one that I guess stuck with me the most, perhaps. So we'll see what happens with this guy. I think he's going to fight it. I do, Michael. I think he's going to fight it all the way to trial. Unfortunately, our cameras are allowed in Colorado, so we'll get to watch it together. Michael J. Brown, thank you for all of this.
Here's what I say. Will he fight it? Will he take a plea? Another prominent case we were recently following ended with a plea, and we all thought that guy would fight it as well. But to play devil's advocate here, it seems like the key evidence the state is using in this particular case is that tranquilizer found in her bones, because their claim is that's a highly regulated substance, and Barry was the only one in that area who had it. He was the only individual in that area who had access to it or possession, whatever you want to call it. And it's up to the state to prove that. So if the investigators didn't do their job properly, which could very well happen because the prosecution didn't do their job the first time, you're going to start running into problems. For example, if the state gets up there and says in their opening statement, they found this substance right here, it was in her bones, only he had access to it, but then the defense can point out multiple other people who had it, you're going to start to run into problems, you're going to start running into reasonable doubt. I will 100% presume he's innocent until he's proven guilty. That's just how I do things on this channel. But there is evidence against him. There's way more evidence against him. His original statement was he was running around the house trying to get rid of chipmunks because there was a chipmunk problem. There's vehicle data that doesn't line up with his story. There's other things that are pointing a finger to him at this moment. But that key piece of evidence better hold up if they want to get the conviction the second time around. But if you enjoy this and a more fair, open conversation, maybe check one of these videos out. Y'all be safe now.